So with that, Chris is here. I know I was just talking to Mark, so I know he's in the room. I think we're going to do a joint presentation. And the topic, I'm looking right down at it, is Enterprise Cloud for DevOps. Chris and Mark, come on up.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Roger.
For the sake of getting a cup of coffee, so let's
coffee. Everybody got their coffee?
Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. The early bird gets the good job. All right.
Awesome. So how many of you joined us yesterday for the Nutanix session? Good number. Awesome.
Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, thank you. Glad I didn't scare you away. So my name is Chris Brown. I'm a technical marketing manager at Nutanix, responsible for DevOps.
And I'm Mark Lavi. I'm the DevOps solution architect for Nutanix.
So today we're going to, yesterday we covered the tech pretty in depth. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about our vision and where we're going with DevOps and what we're bringing to the table. So this is one of my favorite quotes from Mark Anderson here.
I worked for him at Netscape when I was a technology evangelist. And that's our Tweety bird.
We've got our own Twitter bots. And he said, software is eating the world. He said this back in 2011. And so it's pretty, it might seem a little dated, but it's never been more true. Software is replacing all of the things that traditional hardware, traditional pieces of hardware was used for and traditional proprietary pieces were. And the way that software is able to do that is by using evolving, by using new terminologies, new methodologies, and new processes. Or, as you can see in the big word cloud at the top there, DevOps. Yeah, that's how software is eating the world. Adapting these processes and adapting these process
and technologies.
And technologies. Sorry, haven't had enough coffee apparently.
Here.
That's how it's getting there. And because of what some of the companies have been doing and some of the software vendors have been providing, customer experiences are changing and customers' expectations are changing. How many people here remember the great Netflix outage of 2014 on Christmas?
Hated it.
It was probably the worst thing that ever, okay, so a couple. At that time I paid, I think $8 a month for Netflix. And I was furious that I couldn't watch Netflix for 24 hours. I'm paying $8 a month for that. How can infrastructure not be that you're paying tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Come on, you're on AWS.
Yeah.
How could it be?
How can anything? If an $8 a month thing gets customers riled up when it's down, how can an enterprise product not? That's the expectation today. That's what the customers are getting from the consumer level stuff and the Netflixes, the Hulus, the Google. Amazons, the Googles,
the Apple.
Yeah. If Google goes down, I think the world stops. And they're expecting new features. They're expecting continuous improvements, continuous changes. They don't have to do anything special. It just happens. They're expecting the application to be smarter than ever, to understand what the customer's trying to do, and automatically do it for them, or respond to them in new ways. I mean, you just have to look at the number of voice assistants that are out. In the last month, we had Bixby join the group, and then Apple announced a new new talking speaker. How many talking speakers does a house need? At this point, I've got more voices in my house than I do people. So this is what customers are expecting. This is what everyone's looking for. And if we're expecting that on a consumer level, we definitely are expecting that on an enterprise level and at the more expensive level.
Because if you're hiring somebody today, the millennials expect this experience of even our own IT and of our own business and of the way we get things done. Why is it taking so long? Why is it this old traditional process?
Exactly. If a millennial is angry, once again, about Netflix, because I got very angry about that, how angry are they going to be when it takes a week to get a VM provisioned? If it takes a week to get a database? If IT doesn't update a ticket for an extended period of time? Or operations takes forever? It ends up driving them directly into shadow IT. So at the same time, competitive threats are evolving because If you're not adapting these things, one of your competitors are. If we look at this slide, this one's kind of small, so I'm going to walk over here so I can actually see it better.
Sure.
45% of CXOs fear they're going to be obsolete in 3 to 5 years. 48% have no idea what their industry will look like in 3 years. And 78% consider digital startups a threat to their business.
So could we just take a moment? Does anybody agree? If you agree, I'd like you to raise your hand. If you disagree, I'd like you to stand up and tell me why. This is the reality.
And we don't have to look very far to see that this is true. Digital startups can move faster than a large ship in motion. And that was fine for when we weren't in the software era. But with software being able to change entire directions with a single commit or a single new release, it's no longer okay. We just have to look at the physical versus software. We just have to look at, on the left here, we have a list of companies that were massive. Blockbuster, Tower Records, BlackBerry and Kodak, Borders, the entire transportation industry, travel agents, and travel and hospitality. And what replaced them? Software. More intelligent software, faster moving software with new features all the time that is always available. I started using Uber because I could count on them to arrive. If I call a taxi company, you call them up, you might get somebody in 45 minutes. Software, on the other hand, I can see. I know where the person is, when they're coming, and when it's happening. And I also, every time that there's a new update, I get better features. More, I can now, here in New York City, I found I can order food through Uber. I would never want a taxi cab driver to give me food, but I trust Uber. So software is disrupting and destroying these old, traditional, massive companies incredibly fast. How fast did Blockbuster go from top of the industry to bankrupt? About 5 years.
Yeah.
That was about all it took. So those CIOs are right to be worried.
Because at the end of the day, you either disrupt or you are going to be disrupted. And this is what Nutanix is doing to the traditional infrastructure industry. We're software. We happen to bundle it with hardware make it an appliance solution for your benefit. But really, we're software only.
Exactly. So the way to differentiate in this new world with softwares is also rapidly changing. And the new ways are around analytics, be able to drive new abilities, new capabilities, new insight, and that smart experience that customers are now expecting. Data and storage and processing and handling using new applications is huge. And of course, the applications that allow you to change how your business is run and operated is critical. All of this comes together in one point: speed. Move faster. That's the easiest way to put it. That is the way to differentiate, is you've got to be able to move faster than your competition, faster than the startups, faster than anyone. And so the way we get there is DevOps. That's why we're all here. It's called DevOps at CloudEXPO for a reason. And so we define DevOps here at Nutanix as the process of removing friction between developer and customer value.
And if you think about this, this is a business mission. We're here to deliver value to our customers. And if we're not doing it with agility and speed, well, quite frankly, we will lose those customers to our competition because they have millennial expectations. I have millennial expectations. So because it's a process, and the problem with DevOps is that there's no universal definition, well, I spoke to Patrick Dubois, the man who made this term, with Andrew Clay Schaefer just last month in Austin, at Austin DevOps Days. And that is by design. He did not want a universal definition because it's a dynamic term. We are giving you our DevOps definition, and I want you to use it as a lens with which to evaluate anybody who uses the term. If we are helping give you better value to get to your customer, we're doing DevOps for you. Likewise, if our products do, if our industry does, we're all doing DevOps. So look at it as a dynamic thing, a process that never ends, never really starts. It is what you do. Just like security. You don't get to DevOps 1.0, you don't get to security 1.0. You constantly work towards continuous improvement, mastery, improving the state of the art of your engineering, your craftsmanship, and your practices.
Exactly. So to that point, DevOps is not a process. It's just a process. It's not, you can't buy a DevOps box and be DevOps. You can't hire a DevOps guy and be DevOps. It's a process that is continuously improving. You can use DevOps ideas without ever saying the word DevOps.
Yep. First rule of Fight Club.
Except you can actually talk about it this time.
Sort of.
So the reason I say this is that we are at CloudEXPO. In order to use the cloud most effectively, you oftentimes need to use DevOps mindsets, DevOps tools, DevOps pieces, and some DevOps processes. You might not be saying you're doing DevOps, but you have the same mindset. You might not have the top-down approach that's needed to really transform the business, but you're still starting the same journey. And this is why it's so important that we start moving toward, well, I say start, but we have been moving towards it. This is why people are adopting it, not only just the speed and the business value, but also to make the best use of the cloud.
And the number of the companies that we spoke with, the leaders, are DevOps companies behind the scenes. They don't need to use the word either. But this is why they're disruptively changing, improving, grabbing more market share, stealing market share from their competitors. That's Facebook. That's Google. That's Apple.
Exactly. And the reason, we've got this very scientific PowerPoint mock-up, kind of showing what happens. So as you try to move faster and faster, the complexity continues to skyrocket. And at a certain point, you lose control. You no longer control the infrastructure controls you. And DevOps processes and methodologies and thinking is important to bring that down under so that you can continue moving faster without losing control of your infrastructure.
And it's not just the infrastructure, it's also the application architecture.
Sorry.
It's also the culture of the organization that's implementing this change or not. And it's also the operational teams. Are they doing everything hands-on keyboards? Too slow. We don't do that anymore, not at web scale. Do you think anybody at Google SSHs into a server or uses remote desktop protocol? No. You've already lost. That's game over.
In fact, in 2012, Amazon had was it 2012?
2 months ago, Amazon had it out.
2 months out. But back in their elastic load balancers went down.
Oh yeah.
Because somebody who was a vaunted high developer who was allowed to have access to log into the production servers because he was such a complex professional guy, deleted the state database, causing a large number of the elastic load balancers to go down. This wasn't some schmuck on the street. This was one of their top developers. That's why he had access. He still made a mistake. He still took it down because he had SSH into the box. In Amazon's post-mortem, they wrote up that the way they were going to fix this and prevent this from happening again was by automating it, was by removing all access and just having only automations do it. So it's really important to get those hands off the keyboard for one way or the other. At the end of the day, nobody's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes and things happen. So the less hands on keyboard, not only is the faster you can move, but the less mistakes happen during deployment.
But hands on keyboards further automating the business, increasing the amount of DevOps in the organization is a productivity boost and ultimately a force multiplier and enabler of the business. We all have backlogs of work. Who has less work today than yesterday? Does anybody have less work? No. And people who are even afraid of, oh my gosh, you're going to automate me out of a job? Heck no. You're going to finally get out of that job of finally getting to your next job with the new skill sets that are required to automate yourself out of that job and so on. And if your organization doesn't adapt, we need DevOps everywhere. Every business on the earth needs one, needs more than one, and you'll go to the next better business. That's all there is to it. Disrupt or be disrupted.
So just for those of you who saw us yesterday, it's probably going to be a bit of a review slide. Just kind of review what Nutanix does so that everyone understands we're not just sitting up here talking about problems.
Looking pretty.
So Nutanix, we provide an enterprise cloud platform. Our goal is to combine the benefits of the public and the private cloud into a single platform that gives you the benefits of both and allows you to move faster, removes, we try to automate everything possible in the stack. I was in support for 2 years before joining marketing. And at the end of every case, I would ask myself, is there a way a computer could have done this? Is there a way that the customer wouldn't have had to call in? Is there a way we could have corrected that automatically in code? Because the more the smarter the system is, and the quicker and more self-reliant it is, the less downtime it is for the applications, and the quicker recovery is, and the better experience for any application running on that. So, kind of taking another view of it, the way we get there, the way we get to that balance is by replatforming the traditional architectures. We take the traditional storage array, SAN network, and server, and condense it down to hyperconverged blocks with a bunch of extra stuff added on.
And let's just pause there. We told you we were software only. We happened to bundle hardware for the solution to make it one click or one install. Actually rack and stack, give it power and network, top of rack switch, and then go in with the web browser. As long as it's on the network, this is how we can grow anything. Now, that is our partnership can be with Dell, with Supermicro, with Lenovo. Those are the hardware partners that we have, but we're software only. What are we on now?
We're also on Cisco, HP, some hardened servers, and most excitingly, Power, IBM Power. We just announced that we will be announcing.
So hyperconverged infrastructure software is now eating the world on the major hardware platforms that are probably already in your data center with the vendors that you trust and that give you excellent support. Well, now you can have hyperconverged infrastructure software, the Nutanix experience, on your hardware.
Because of our big data roots, underneath the hood, we use Cassandra, Zookeeper, MapReduce. We're able to do scale out, so we're able to grow organically and like a cloud would, and you pay as you grow.
In other words, we're using all the cloud-native technologies to present a cloud-native experience, which is what hyperconverged infrastructure software is, which is really the same thing that Google and Facebook and others do. We've literally commercialized the scale-out Google data center, the scale-out Facebook data center.
So, you had your virtualization app. Quick note on that animation there. We support 4 hypervisors. We've got ESXi, Hyper-V, our own KVM called AHV, and then Zen Server. So we're trying to be as software agnostic as possible. We want to be flexible and make it so that let you guys choose what's right for your particular use case. Because each one, if you ask anyone about any one of those hypervisors, everyone has a list of complaints and a list of things that they like about it. Or in some cases, maybe they don't have anything they like about it. But somebody else has something they really like about that hypervisor. So there's always use cases. There's no one answer in IT. It's always a balancing of tools and making sure that you're using the right one for the job. And our goal is to give you a platform that not only allows you to choose, but also allows you to change when a different tool is needed. So if we look at a cloud-native app, in this case, I've got a Kubernetes example. Everyone probably knows about Kubernetes and how it can do some really awesome things. And if you're looking at this, the end state is ideal. The idea that you can, Netflix has chaos monkeys running around in their environment, killing things randomly all the time. They literally called the program Chaos Monkey. And nobody notices because they planned for failure and they built it to be at that level of resiliency using cloud-native technologies and cloud-native methodologies and DevOps methodologies. So the end state is ideal. But how do you get there? I've got an application today. How do I get to the point where I can start running applications that are killing parts of my full application? How do I get all these pieces in there? It looks like it's a very complex process. It looks like there's no clear path between A and B. So what we've done is we kind of broke it down into a set of steps where, as we were talking about, everyone has more work today than they did yesterday. And so the idea of taking on a massive project to transform an application into a Mode 2 app or a cloud-native app.
Refactor the monolith.
Taking the project on to refactor the monolith seems daunting. Like, how will I ever have time to do that? And how am I going to ever be able to make it work right. So the trick is to take small steps. Each step on this journey, I'm not going to read it all. I see the slides will be out after, but
Yes.
each step has concrete benefits for you and your business and your workflows today. Anything that you spend a little extra time to automate today saves you 10 times fold or many times fold the effort when you've got to do it over and over and over again.
You can do DevOps just on your laptop. It pays dividends all the way down the entire software pipeline, all the way to that customer.
Exactly. And the other thing we talk about, another thing that commonly comes up with DevOps is that, you need to have, C-level buy-in. You need to have that top-down so that the entire organization moves. You can do DevOps just within an operations organization. You can start changing your mindset. Obviously, you can't get to the full, the full application refactoring, but you can do a lot of these things internally and make your own processes better. Eventually, people will see what's happening, see what's going on, and want to adapt that as well, and want to bring that same flexibility to their process. And it'll grow from there. So don't feel like you can't get started just because you don't have buy-in from execs.
Be fearless, be agile, make that first change, which adds up to the next change, which adds up, and you're reducing the friction in your system so that ultimately you're delivering value for just your internal audience and eventually your external audience. This all adds up. It's cumulative. The first step you take will be hard. The second step might be even harder because now you have a better view of the world. But again, you make those steps small, and it's just another tiny one step. Be agile, be fearless. You'll never stop the journey.
Exactly. And so the reason that each step is important is because firefighting, fixing infrastructure problems, or correcting something, or trying to correct a mistake that was made is the death of agility. Anytime you spend troubleshooting or bringing back up a system or recovering is time that you could have been spent on something better, on something improving the business or delivering new services to your users. In an ideal world, the request process would be that, hey, I request a VM, the VM gets provisioned, I get the VM, or the application, or whatever, the resource. In an actual world, we end up with things going down. We've got to troubleshoot. We've got to engage the SMEs. System's still not up, though. We've got to get on the phone with the vendor, talk to the execs, give them updates, get on hourly calls, escalate the case, and then we're still not done because the system's still not up. Finally, we're able to get the system back up. We're able to verify the system restore. We're able to provision VMs. But at this point, we've been working for 24 hours, and we all need to go to sleep. So it waits another day. So everything that you can do to reduce the amount of firefighting, reduce the amount of fragility in the infrastructure, reduce the amount of manual hand-holding that's needed, improves your ability to focus on delivering value and speeding up the business. So, give this.
All right, so we talked about how Nutanix is the hyper-converged infrastructure leader. You now know we're only a, what type of company? Software company, good. So you also will see, if you look at our history, we've progressively worked up the infrastructure stack to make scale-out software-defined storage. You now know we're a platform of choice for multiple hypervisors. Whatever workloads you need to run on the platform will run better and faster than any other infrastructure because we're constantly looking at chapter 1, the storage. We understand the disk workloads. We start moving things for local onto the node, out of spinning disk to SSD, and into memory cache. We're constantly auto-tuning the workloads for you to give you the highest performance. So we've also started at the beginning of the year working further up the infrastructure stack to microsegmentation and networking. We're early on this journey, but you'll see that now we'll make sure that disaster recovery VMs failing across metro, stretch, data center, backup clusters will preserve their network attributes, their firewalls, their VLANs, and so on. And we'll not just do the software-defined, we have alliance partners so that we can work with the physical switches that you have in your data center as well. So this next chapter is really continuing up to the top of the infrastructure stack, and we want to help you see what we're going to realize together next. So what is this, a click? I need a millennial help. All right, so that chapter 1, I'll just drill down super quick on it. It's a review. This is really Nutanix 101. And you know what? I'm not even going to read it to you. Long story short is we're software-defined storage as a service. We only have 2 product lines, Acropolis, which is the storage services and all the interfaces, SMB, iSCSI, all that other good stuff. Whatever you need to get onto the platform or leverage that storage pool that can scale out, no problem at all. And Prism is our single pane of glass management interface. That's all we have for licensing. So there are many permutations of those licenses, but those are the only 2 product lines. At the end of the day, what we have is, as we said, we rack and stack power and network, get it onto the network, and when that's fun, we have production workloads running on the cluster same day. And this, I would guarantee you, is more than half of our installs are successful the first day, and I'm talking not 1 node, I'm talking hundreds of nodes. Of course, we'll probably get more than 1 person to help do that, but that's the kind of experience, almost millennial experience you want for your physical infrastructure. What this means is that also, because the entire platform is built for resiliency and for failure, there's no single point of failure. So we can do upgrades of BIOS, firmware, the applications, the VMs, they move all the time. So if we have an upgrade, and we upgrade every 6 months roughly, we have admins upgrading things at lunch. We have admins upgrading, you look at the tweet stream, we have admins upgrading things from their iPhone on a plane because we are anti-failure. We're not perfect, but that 1 node that may be down or not down, it's not a problem. We already have all the redundancy built in, we've got you covered, and that's just on storage. We'll talk about compute next. But we don't have RAID, we don't have SAN, we do this internally in a sense, but we've reduced the complexity. We've given you a single pane of glass for your entire cluster. You add another node, make sure it's rack and stacked on the network, and all of a sudden in Prism it says, new node, what do you want to do? Join the cluster, create new cluster. That new node is now functional with 1 click in some cases. That's the simplicity, that's the millennial admin of not 1 server, not hundreds of servers, but 1 admin for thousands of servers. This is Google, this is Facebook, this is Apple, this is how we do web scale. So at the end of the day, that means every 6 months, you upgrade the platform and you get new features, new Acropolis interfaces, higher performance, better erasure coding, better dedupe. This is software. So, step 2. We told you that it's multiple hypervisors because our customers run and have different skill sets and choose to run their business the way they want. We're a platform of choice. And not only that, we even help you move between hypervisors if they're not doing you right. So, as such, we now have created Prism Central, which allows us to manage multiple interfaces, multiple clusters. So your ESX cluster, your AHV cluster, your Hyper-V cluster, single pane of glass. This is the way it should be. Multiple clouds, multiple clusters. Long story short is that we have incredibly happy customers, 1, because they don't have downtime for the most part. And if we make a mistake or they make a mistake, we get on support. We do not get off 48 hours rolling over across all the different time zones, across all the support centers. We don't let our customers fail, and that's why we have a Net Promoter Score of over 90. How much is Apple's? How much is Apple's?
I don't know, actually.
80s. How much are our competitors? 30s, 40s, 50s. Go check it out. We'll give you the links. Our customers are our best evangelists. Okay, so we can migrate workloads. We can accelerate their projects so that you can get things done because you have your choice of how to do it. And not only that, because we understand now the disk workloads and the compute workloads, we can give you predictive capacity analytics on how many days you have left of storage on the cluster. How many days based upon memory on CPU workloads. We do this with machine intelligence learning. And so now we'll let you figure out that, maybe it's time to add the next Dell XC node of Nutanix because I've got 3 months left on the cluster. And I don't have to buy for 3 years. I have to buy for whatever my runway is. That's all. Fractional consumption.
And the runway gives you justification. You're like, no, you can't argue with the data. We're going to run out of space in 60 days.
So, told you about this next chapter. We're very early on. Long story short, I already explained it. Dynamic configuration of firewall rules, of microsegmentation, follows your workloads around, even across disaster recovery stretch clusters. So, We've talked about DevOps. Now let me tell you about the implication of the enterprise cloud. And Nutanix no longer calls itself a hyper-converged infrastructure company. We've had to disrupt ourselves already. We're 5 or 6 years into this journey, and now it's time for the next chapter. We've been talking about being an enterprise cloud company for the last year, and let me define it for you. The public cloud has commoditized infrastructure and made everything one click away, one API away, and this is the millennial experience we think and demand now of our infrastructure. Why does it take more than 1 minute for that database to at least to get started? Sure, it might take an hour to provision, but why can't I have it now? How many months? How many weeks? How many days? I'm sorry, you just lost your own internal customer inside your own business, and now parts of your business don't understand why the hell they have to deal with you. And we get to shadow IT and shadow cloud, right? So now that the cloud is commoditized infrastructure, we're working to commoditize the cloud on your behalf. You should be able to drive your workloads not only to any hypervisor on-prem, which you already now know you can do with Nutanix, but also any other public cloud provider off-prem. Why should you have lock-in to a hypervisor or Amazon or Azure? You should be able to go to ESX and Amazon and Azure as you see fit as a hybrid deployment so that you can get the best of all the worlds, so that they can compete for your infrastructure dollar, so that you can run the business as quickly as possible with infinite scale out. And so this is how we are going to help enable application mobility across infrastructures. And we will give you the fastest time to market without any lock-in as a result. This is the nirvana we've always wanted. We're developing this and bringing this out publicly at the end of the month. So this means that now you can finally control your cloud spend because everybody has that hangover at the end of the month, OpEx, credit card charge that the CFO asks, why did the Amazon bill go up this month? Why did the Azure bill go up this month? Why can't you get it under control? Show me that it's not even going to go up next month and I'll believe that you have it under control, but it always goes up. We don't have discipline. We didn't have discipline on the data center either. All of our developers would take up as much of the beefy machines as they could, even though they would only use it 1% of its full utilization rate at any point in time. In the cloud, public cloud, you pay for all of that underutilization constantly. So we want you to be able to go anywhere to accelerate your business and not only get that infinite scale, because this is what we're here to do. As infrastructure people, this was our dream. This is what we need to deliver. Nutanix will help you do this now. So we already know about DevOps. We talked about it as really being an agility enabler. And so at the end of the day, we see that it's a mixture of technology and culture. And technology ultimately always gets more complex. So unless you drive anti-complexity and better integration and the ability to go to any enterprise cloud into all of your vendor choices, well then you deserve what you just bought. You bought another vendor platform that locked you in, that won't let you get the agility and the speed that you need. A company or a vendor that has increased the complexity in your IT, which has slowed you down further, which makes the rest of the business angry. So likewise, I'll just say one more thing. It's a mistake to hire DevOps people. Did you hear me? Why would I say that? I'll tell you why. Because DevOps teams, physical people, become the excuse for not doing DevOps for the rest of the organization. The DevOps team becomes the bottleneck because it inherits all of the technical and all of the cultural debt of the anti-agility of the business. DevOps team does that for me. DevOps team will make me go faster when they do it for me. This is the wrong attitude. The entire part of the business, everybody in the business owns the agility to the customer to deliver that value. That's our business mission. This is how we align development and test and operations to deliver value to the customer with agility and with speed. And if we're not doing that and you think the DevOps team is going to save the day, actually they're going to leave because your culture is broken. So it's hard to find the DevOps superstars. It's harder to keep them because they read the writing on the wall. Let me give you one more way to look at the world, and this is pets versus cattle. And for all of you, I hope you've already seen this. But if not, this is the way to look at how to achieve scale in your business. Pets are the way we build infrastructure, bottom up, storage, compute, networking, operating system, all those different teams working together. It took 4 or 5 months to rack and stack, purchase rack and stack power, get everything done to get that one server for a database. Months. That's the way it used to be, bottoms up. And then when we had that one database, we named it Constellation 22. We kept it up for as long as possible. We had emotional attachment to it. If it went down, we were really upset, so was the whole business. But we did manual backups, we did hot swapping of memory, CPU, power, networking every freaking day. And we paid for all those backups, 12 years of backups for, say, maybe a really great, awesome database, Constellation 22 that was up. Well, that's a problem. We don't need to take care of things or have emotional attachment to them or take them to the veterinarian. Today, infrastructure is one click. I don't have a database, I have a database cluster. And if any part of that cluster fails, do I take it to the vet? Do I remediate? I don't care. I take it out back, and now that I'm from Texas, I can say this. We shoot it in the head. This is a standard cluster terminology. Shoot the other node in the head. I don't remediate because I need to keep my SLAs up for my applications. I replace it with one more click. I have no emotional attachment. I don't even name my things. I have numbers and naming conventions. So this is the way to get out of our traditional ways of looking at things. To increase performance, we will scale up by adding more performance and disk and CPU to a single pet, to scale out where I just need to add more incremental elements, and they don't even have to be the highest performing CPU and GPU and everything else. I can continue to scale out my applications as long as they can take advantage of infinite infrastructure. So this is how we get out of the monolith, which is a pet, to distributed architectures, which are inherently cattle. What this means is that now you can look at Nutanix, and why are we disruptive? Because we are not pets in any way. We're inherently cattle infrastructure, inherently cattle architecture. We were built for failure. And as a result, failure is not a typical option for anything. So let's upgrade the cluster at lunch, not a problem. So what this means is that we've disrupted the entire SAN industry. We've disrupted the entire compute industry because we hyperconverge all these problems, and then we solve the operational problems, and we drive the operational expenditures to the floor. Remember that one admin of thousands of nodes of Nutanix? That's more than one of our customers. That's most of our customers. So even treating Amazon as a pet is why we had an outage 2 months ago. People were in only one Amazon data center, one region. Oh my God. We treat our data centers like pets? We treat our clouds like pets? No, we need to cattle our data centers. We need to cattle our clouds. We need multiple enterprise clouds. That's how we should run the business, and anybody who stops you from doing that is slowing you down. Don't tolerate pet architecture, infrastructure, operations, or culture anywhere. You'll see pets versus cattle everywhere now. I'm a pet, but now we are cattle because we're going to solve this problem together. So that's why even pets versus cattle applies to culture. So we already know about the heroic person who can do, the only one who can save the day at the mill at 4 in the morning. We need a global operations team to cattle that distributed intelligence. We don't need to be hands-on anymore with our operations. We need to scale out our operations by making sure we're hands-off, automating as much as possible, driving things by key performance metrics, and even trying to get a history around it with chat ops. And if you haven't heard of these terms, talk to us a little bit later. We'll show you examples. And remember, don't hire the DevOps team. We all become DevOps. We cattle DevOps across the organization. Every developer, every tester, every operator, we are DevOps. So this is a continuous journey of cultural change to reduce the silos, which informs what's the next step of automation that needs to happen when we reduce those silos, which informs, and we need to drive metrics into all these things so we can even see whether or not we've achieved that automation and that cultural change objective. Because if we don't have those metrics, we don't know if we did anything. And now we repeat this over and over. Remember, DevOps is a process, continuous improvement. Here are the 3 steps that you repeat over and over. You never finish the journey, but you constantly improve. So that metrics drives the next cultural change because you have something, and then you can measure whether or not the automation and the cultural change happened. Did the numbers go up? Did things improve? Did we increase the velocity of value to our customers? Did we do DevOps? Or did we not? Or did we go backwards? So never stop. What this means is that now, if you accept my premise, our premise, that you need to achieve 2 business outcomes, agility and scale. And we put these on the two axes, and we see that we're going from operators increasingly to automation as developers. Our operators are developers now too. Our operators are testers. And we put that on the horizontal axis, and now we take the vertical axis to go from pets up to cattle. So we get that increasing scale. Now you can see why the business is trapped in the lower left quadrant. Now you can see why your traditional vendors keep you trapped with pet architectures, with pet infrastructure, and pet operations. Increasing complexity, increasing specialization, increasingly a lack of cattle attitude for everything. That's the trap. What vendor is going to help reduce the complexity, drive down OpEx, try to get you to cattle your infrastructure? Because if you just install Nutanix, even on your traditional servers now, you're starting to go up that axis. And if you start to automate more of your architectures, you're starting to go across on that axis. And that's how you get out of that trap. And so almost all of my customers say, oh my gosh, Mark, we're a pet shop, and we're at stage 0.5. And they always want to achieve the dream of the upper quadrant. All hail Gartner for trying to do, for giving us this construct, for looking at things. So what does that magical quadrant look like? Cattle operations on cattle enterprise clouds of cattle infrastructure, of cattle applications. And that's driven by a DevOps culture to get there. And we enable this. So remember, there's multiple dimensions to this journey. It's not just the infrastructure story, it's also the architecture for the applications, which also implies the operations for maintaining those applications and that infrastructure, and ultimately that implies the cultural change that's required to make all of these things unlocked. And so this is a multi-step journey on multiple dimensions. You'll never finish doing DevOps. Can you see how hard it is? But can you see how, with the right vendor, with the right value system, that inherently is DevOps? And by the way, what is an Amazon data center? What is a Google data center? It's a DevOps-run operation of hyper-converged infrastructure. They have their own flavor. We have the flavor that you can purchase and put together. So now you can see how we will help you go forward on this journey. And so at the end of this month, we will do the public announcement of how we do application automation with a DevOps enterprise cloud platform. So I hope if you're interested in learning more that you, if nothing else, come down to DC, take the train down to DC at the end of the month, talk to us if you need any help in doing that. And not only that, if you can't make it, watch the live stream of the keynotes or whatever we post right after that. Because at the end of the month, we're going to make sure that DevOps is a thing. Not that you can buy, but that you can start to do. And we won't do it for you. We will accelerate every one of your efforts, and we will give you the platform capabilities to adopt cattle everything. So, how we do?
Well, I think we're doing good. It's time for the raffle, since all those tickets you got when you got in. So, because I realized I didn't announce it in the beginning. You want your badge?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. We've got this Nutanix backpack with a Amazon Echo in it. So, as a prize for listening to us ramble on for 45 minutes here. The winner is?
Got your tickets ready?
Everyone got their tickets ready? 638-876.
All right, while you're fumbling around for that, what were the last 3 digits again?
876.
All right, come on down. You're the next contestant. Folks, we'll be at the Nutanix booth. We'll be doing presentations all day. Let's trust but verify.
And you can take these coupons to the Nutanix booth and get a Lego set to build your own cloud.
So we thank you. We'll be around all day. We thank you for your time.
Great.